Welcome. I'm Larry Olsen, and this is the Brain Vault Podcast. Did you know that the thoughts you're thinking right now are shaping the life you'll live tomorrow? Well, in this podcast, we just don't talk about mindset. We decode the blueprint behind behavior, performance, and possibility. This is where science meets real-world strategy, and your brain stops running on autopilot. If you're ready to turn default thinking into intentional living, you're in the right place. Well, I want to welcome all of you to Brain Vault Podcast, and this is where science meets success. I know you had a lot of choices as to what you could involve your time in right now, and we all know the only thing we can't get back in life is our time. So our job today is to make sure that this is a phenomenal investment of yours. So I'm going to open up with this question. What if and let's talk about AI a little bit, because there's a lot of conversation going on about it. What if the real threat of AI isn't that it replaces your job, but that it slowly replaces you? Our guest today, Derek Rydall, has spent his life exploring one of the most important questions of our time. What makes us truly irreplaceable? Best-selling author, founder of the Whole New Human Movement, and host of the globally recognized Emergence podcast, Derek doesn't just study human potential. He lived its evolution. His journey started in tech, coding, systems, logic, but led him somewhere unexpected, beyond the brain and into consciousness itself. A near-death experience shattered his understanding of success and launched him into decades of studying psychology, neuroscience, spirituality, and creativity. Bridging ancient wisdom with modern science in a way that few can. But what makes Derek different isn't just what he learned, it's what he's lived. From profound personal loss to deep transformation, his work is forged in real life, not theory. In his book, amazing book, by the way, A Whole New Human, he makes a bold claim. As AI accelerates, the real risk isn't technological disruption. It's human obsolescence. And the solution? Not becoming more like machines, but becoming more fully human. Welcome, Derek, to the Brain Vault podcast.
Thank you, Larry. It's an honor and a pleasure to be here.
As well as ours. Thank you. You know, Derek, let's start out with this opening question. You say AI is acting like a mirror, revealing what we've been outsourcing from ourselves for years. So, what specifically have we already given away that we now need to reclaim?
Yeah, that's a big question in and of itself. How much time you got? But we've been outsourcing parts of ourselves ever since we built the first tool. And the idea of the calculator, and that was controversial in its time, and that it would begin to diminish and atrophy some of our cognitive abilities, and indeed it did. And then the GPS, we now know that it reduces hippocampal activity and other cognitive activity. So there's a history, and some of it's good. We don't have to plow the field with all of our muscle, and we can extend and expand our strength and our capacity with machines. And in Maslow's hierarchy of needs, we can outsource some of the things that really were more machine-like. Right? Things that can be put into a database or into a machine, you could make the case they were never really meant for humans to be doing over and over and over. It doesn't mean you can't go plow your garden and do physical things, but in terms of the monotonous, repetitive nature of things that need to be done, you could make the case that a lot of what we outsourced, it never really should be our job. We shouldn't be cogs in a machine. We shouldn't be plowing the field all day. It freed us up to grow in our capacities for deeper thinking, greater creativity, more time and connection, the things that only humans can do.
Mm,
So ultimately, what I make the case for in my book is not just that AI is the greatest existential crisis we will ever face, I believe, at least so up to now, but also one of the greatest inflection points evolutionarily where we have the opportunity. It will force us to answer the question, if something else can do everything a human has done up to now better, faster, cheaper, what's a human for?
mm, mm,
And the answer of that question, which I don't think is just a sentence, it's an experience, it's a
mhm,
living, it's a way of life, is going to be the opportunity for us to become the kinds of humans we were really meant to be. And I believe usher in a whole new renaissance if we're willing to double down on the human technology. We are investing trillions into the outer technologies, but how much are we investing in terms of our time and our treasure and our talent into our human technology? And we forget we're the ones that created the outer technology. So that means by definition, we're better, we're greater, we're stronger, we have more. We're the creator, not the creation of the technology. And we forget that. The more we outsource, we forget it. But the biggest danger with AI is it is intelligence, it is cognition, and it will basically bring the cost of a unit of cognition to zero at some point. And the thing that got us down from the trees on the savannah and into the stars was fundamentally that
mm.
thinking, cognition, and intelligence. And so we're going to face one of the biggest identity crises again that we've ever faced. And ultimately, more important than just job loss, as you mentioned, the loss of meaning and purpose.
Hmm.
And humans can survive anything except the loss of meaning and purpose. So, so that's the big question before us, the big opportunity also.
Yeah, that really causes all of us to ask this question, and it's one of the most vulnerable positions we can be in, and is who am I really?
Yes.
We know who we are at work, we know who we are in a relationship, or we think we do, right? We behave certain ways depending on the circumstances we find ourselves in. But what's behind that behavior? Who
Yes.
is that? Who is really Derek? Who is Larry? And I think we do a
That's
lot
the
to
ultimate
avoid
question.
yeah, we do a lot to avoid answering the question.
Yes.
Because what if we don't like the answer, or can we really answer that without it being a societal answer or
Yes.
something that's been imposed on us? So, how did you grapple with that? And you've opened up such a powerful opportunity here for all of us. Does human mean to you to begin with?
Well, interestingly, human in Sanskrit, which is a very ancient and old language, has a meaning. It means the dispenser of divine gifts.
Oh, I like
So
that.
the actual ancient Sanskrit meaning of human is as a dispenser, a channel, an instrument, a portal through which divine gifts. And now, if you don't like the word divine, you could say higher intelligence. And it's true, right? When you look back pre-enlightenment, you read the Upanishads, or you read the Bhagavad Gita, or you read the Buddhist text, or you just listen to some of the teachings of the great Asian teachings and masters and all that. They were already downloading string theory and atomic theory and all these
Mm,
things long before there was a microscope or a telescope.
mm,
And so we are the original superintelligence. And if you want to get religious for a moment, even though I don't believe it's a religious meaning, when it says in Genesis, made in the image and likeness of God, what does that mean?
mm.
It doesn't mean a man with a beard.
Oh, come on.
Just to be clear,
Buckle up, everybody.
it's like the joke, God made us in his image, and we've been trying to repay the favor ever since. Make God in our image. And so it just, this intelligence, this great creative capacity of the universe, out of nothing, bam, came everything. that ability to create out of nothing, that ability to think outside of time and space, which is what separates us from the other animals, otherwise known as metacognition, the
Mm,
ability to think about our thinking, the
yeah.
ability to look inside at ourselves, at the patterns, at the beliefs, at the stories, and step outside of it and have a gap between stimulus and response, otherwise known as response ability. Metacognition is, you could say, thinking like God, thinking like a divine being, thinking like a person who is not ever limited by conditions. That's a super intelligence.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's really a
And
deep.
it's not blasphemous.
No, it's not.
Eh
It's to me, it's the opposite.
Yeah.
It's an honoring of the recognition. There's something about us that is unique than any other animal in terms of we are something more than that. And what when you look at all the identities you just described that we've created, many of the problem is once you create an identity, if it's coming from a need for survival, which most of it is, and that's not a judgment or a blame, it's just a fact. And so, at first it was just get some food, procreate, you know,
Yep.
keep the, basic survival of the gene, basic survival. But then if you just expand that into a more complex environment and a more complex society, you end up with the same impulse, but now it looks like get a job. And now it looks like invest for your retirement. And now it looks like get a better job. And now it looks like be a smarter person so you can get a bigger promotion. But it's the same impulse. And
Mm,
so all of these identities, many of them for most people are built off of the fundamental animalistic impulse of survival.
mhm,
And so in major crises and inflection points in history, as the saying goes, don't let a good crisis go to waste. When we use the crisis, it cracks us open and it allows us to touch something deeper than survival,
mm,
the kind of impulse that causes you to lay down your life for another, risk your life for a stranger, go out, do something that doesn't get you as much money or food or recognition or name or fame or fortune. You're touching a deeper, more evolutionary impulse of our humanity. Again, what you could call almost divine,
mhm,
holy, sacred, spiritual, whatever word you want, a higher value system because it's not about surviving. It's not about getting. It's about there's something more in me that wants to come out. I can't help myself. I need to serve or love or create this beautiful thing. This beautiful thing isn't going to necessarily make me money or food, not from that pure impulse. It might as a byproduct, but this magnificent cathedral that people spend generations building, that's not going to make me survive, but it's something about it that is transcendent. So we've seen glimpses of this deeper identity. Well, now with AI, as it literally confronts us with the capacity to take away all of the places we've hidden our true divinity inside, our true genius, our true potential, as in jobs and systems and structures of the world, and we're now forced to come out from hiding.
mhm,
That's what the big opportunity is, and that's, by the way, what the great teachers throughout history, whether it's a Gandhi, a Mandela, a Buddha, a Jesus, a Lao Tzu, they're all coming at a time where people are in crisis, and they're trying to fight or survive or double down on survival, and these masters said, "I got another idea for you. How about you look within, take a breath, there's a deeper value system that gives you more power. Don't live by the sword. Don't just fight back. Turn the other cheek. Be still. Know thyself." The Oracle of Delphi, she was a woman, and it wasn't an affirmation, it was a warning.
mm,
You better know yourself because if you don't, something's going to know you better. And then guess who's using who?
yeah,
So
yeah,
the AI is creating this great inflection point, this great mirror, forcing us to really look in the mirror and ask and answer the question, if I couldn't lean on all these other identities, what would be left? What
Mm,
would matter most?
mhm.
And that question, which has been asked throughout the ages and all these crises moments, or by like someone like Viktor Frankl in Man's Search for Meaning,
Sure.
um, at the root of that question isn't just another identity. It's an activation of a potential and a joy and a peace and a love and a freedom and an inspiration that no amount of these outer identities that we're so afraid of losing can ever bring us. And that's on the other side of that is a new renaissance. If not in the world, a new renaissance in your life. And
Hmm.
that would be an awesome thing. It doesn't have to happen for everybody.
So the limitation is not who we are. The limitation can be how we've identified ourselves,
100% well said.
right?
A
And
limitation is the concept that we're locked inside of.
yeah, yeah. And, and I don't know if I'm saying this properly, but I believe it was Christ that said when he was being wowed by some of the things he was able to do, the least among you will do far greater things than I.
Yeah.
Basically,
Greater
don't the
things than these shall you do. Ye are gods, greater things than these shall you do. Yes.
and
It's like you're
and
gonna have email, you're gonna have internet, you're gonna have AI. All I got is these moccasins and sand in my crotch. It's like you're gonna do a lot better things. Yeah.
uh and it I guess the triteness statement of that is become a human being, not a human doing.
Yeah.
Um, but the
It's also
whole
been captured by a lot of new age self-help,
yeah,
success teachings that have, um, really missed the point, you
yeah,
know?
yeah.
Gone Dr. King said, "Anybody can be great because everybody can serve." And
Mhm.
that's more to the point of what Jesus is talking about. And yes, if you can truly serve and make a difference in other people's lives, you can also make a lot of money or that's one of the things that some of the most successful entrepreneurs and innovators understood. They're like, help a billion people, like
Yeah,
really help a billion people, and you'll have a real chance of being a rich person. But so the greatness is in our capacity to love, to serve, to create, again, all of that for sure.
yeah. It seems like you have the same attitude I do about positive thinking. It's someone wandering around and you're going, "How you doing?" And they go, "I'm doing
Right.
great." And you go, "How
Right.
come?" And they go, "I have no idea."
Right. The subtext, "Hey, brother, how you doing, brother?" It's like, "I'm great." And the subtext is, "Oh, I'm having a terrible my life sucks. This is really bad." That would be a funny thing, a bunch of positive thinkers walking around and just the subtext is just terrible.
Yeah, it's unfortunate because without the understanding of what we believe creation to be to begin with, whether it was billions of years or 6 days, it doesn't matter. Our brain was standard operating equipment when we popped out of the womb, and we had absolutely nothing to do with the creation of it.
Yes.
And it's almost like, the difference between that and AI is we had to create AI. Yeah, it was already created, the ideas and the substance inside of us, and
Yes.
then it was just being curious enough to do something about it. But I wanted to ask you,
Before you go there, can I just make one quick little point, which I
yeah,
think is
absolutely.
interesting?
You bet,
Is
please.
yeah, this is another discovery, having moved from technology, outer technology to inner technology, and then back again into a recursive loop of seeing that, as above, so below, as within, so without, the Hermetic saying that the outer technologies that we create are externalizations of inner technology.
Mm,
Like right now, we're on using a technology where we are now in living rooms, in offices, in cars around the world. Simultaneously, we are omnipresent,
mm,
and our hearts are with theirs and our minds are with theirs. And even from a quantum physics statement, we are now quantumly entangled with individuals all around the world simultaneously.
mm.
That is not woo woo. That is science. That is a fact. And and something is shifting and happening as a result of that. We are omnipresent right now. And and even a bit omnipotent in the sense that we're having an impact. There's
Mm,
power being generated and translated to thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds, however many. And then those individuals will impact others. And there's a web that is covering the planet right now. That is an externalization of one of the descriptions of God: omnipresence,
mm,
omnipotence. And we also now have an internet and an AI that has access to all of the knowledge of humanity with a button, with a prompt. That's omniscience. And it's not perfect omniscience or perfect omnipresence, but it's an externalization. So it's important to understand what we're doing with all the technology is trying to externalize the infinite, invisible nature of reality. Call it consciousness, call it the quantum field, call it God, call it the mind of God. As Einstein said, he wanted to understand the mind of God. And so that's what we're always doing. The danger is when we've done that, from the Tower of Babel on, we then make that external thing, the source, the God,
mm,
and the power. Now that Tower of Babel will get us to heaven. No, heaven is an inward journey,
mhm,
not an outward, or that AI eventually will make us gods. No, that's a false idol. That's all that. It's
mhm,
not that technology is bad. It's every time we create something on the outside as an attempt to experience what we're touching on the inside, and we make it an idol, a god, a power, a source. We then put ourselves back into a Faustian bargain. We put ourselves back into a problem that all the great stories have depicted over and over, from Icarus with the wings that melt, from the Frankenstein story, from Goethe's Sorcerer's Apprentice to the Sorcerer's Stone to it's the same story. We keep creating an externalization, a golem, whatever, and trying to make it be God, and we disconnect from ourselves. And that's what's happening. That's the big danger. And we're in one of the biggest opportunities to externalize that God power and lose ourselves potentially for a very long time.
yes, beautiful. Let me ask you this. I love that, by the way. Um, do you think it's innate or nurturing that we have this seems to be fundamental desire to diminish ourselves, to be less than, so that we create gods, we create things that we feel are greater than us so that we can be put in our place? There's got to be a seed there that doesn't allow us the opportunity to feel that we are deserving. That, with this whole fraud within that CEOs and leaders have. If anybody
Right.
knew who I was, right,
Yes.
I wouldn't be in this position. And it's not just a
The
few.
imposter syndrome.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly, the imposter syndrome. Where do you think that comes from? Do you think that's a nurturing thing, or do you think it's innate to keep us in our place? Which I kinda know already where you're gonna go with that, but I think it's a valid
It's
question.
a great question. It's a deep question. And there's a couple things. One is I think there's two versions of that. There is the part of us that builds the outer thing to make us feel like we have the power of God. So that's
Okay.
that's the sorcerer's apprentice, that's the golem, that's the wings of wax, that's the Tower of Babel, that's a lot of the tech bros and their AI gods that they're creating. So there is that impulse. I want to be God. I want to have power. I want to have control. And maybe even from a sincere, I believe I could make a difference. I could really help if you only let me have control.
Yeah.
That we know where that story usually ends, but it's not always from a malicious mustache twirling place. It's sincere. Like, I have an idea. If only you would believe me and I could do it, I could change the world. I could end all whatever. But that eventually is an ego trip.
Mhm.
And if you just study the greatest master teachers, that wasn't how they approached it. They did believe there was a potential and a power, and they were an instrument of it. But even Jesus said, he said, "Good master," he said, "Why do you call me good? There's no good but God." And he said to Pontius Pilate, "You couldn't have any power to give life or death unless it was given to you from above." So he was trying to teach, don't worship me, don't worship any human. There is a God, there is a power, there is an intelligence. It is within you. He did say it was within us. If we only got that part right. So did Buddha and all the teachers. But it's within you, but it's more than you, and you have to humble yourself to it. So that means I of myself have no power. I of myself am nothing. That's not humiliation in a self-deprecating way. That's proper understanding. In the same way, if you were a branch on a tree and you thought you had your own life and you're like, I don't need you, tree, and you cut yourself off from the tree and start branching your way around, you're going to just slowly wither and die. But if you know I'm a branch, but I am really an extension of the tree, of myself, I can't grow a flower, I can't grow anything, but one with the tree, humbled to know that I'm nothing of myself, but as an expression of the tree, I can do anything. I can grow flowers and fruits and nuts, harvest upon harvest upon
in a
harvest,
true
and
abundance,
those will
yeah.
grow more trees and more harvest. So there's an understanding, a wisdom, which is it is true that we are nothing of ourself. And but when you don't understand, that doesn't mean you're nothing. That means you're part of something bigger. Like
Mhm,
a cell of itself outside the body dies. So it's nothing. But if it thinks it's everything, it becomes a cancer.
mm,
And so it's both nothing, it's an instrument of the intelligence of the body. It has a mission, like to be a heart cell, a lung cell, a immune cell. It has a purpose. And if it lets the life force of the body move through it, it fulfills a magnificent thing and becomes part of this larger body. So it's a both and. It's like we have to understand that impulse of feeling like we're nothing is a echo of a deeper wisdom. But if we don't understand that, we either collapse ourselves and we don't allow ourselves to be part of something
mm,
bigger,
hmm,
or we inflate ourselves to compensate for feeling unworthy. So
mm,
the ego will inflate or deflate. You're nothing, you're everything. And that's ego. But when you embrace that ego and you recognize that's a shadow, and you don't try to fix your nothingness and make you into something, and you don't try to destroy your everything and make it into nothing, you embrace those polarities with love. As Jesus said, love your enemy, the enemy is in your own household. As you embrace those parts of you. Or Buddha talked about craving and aversion. I don't want to be a nothing. I want to be everything. It's the if you embrace those things, you don't run away, you don't fight them, they become transmuted and you embody wisdom.
hmm,
As I'm saying, you discover it's true, I'm nothing of myself. That allows me to be an opening. That allows me to be a beginner's mind,
mm,
open at the top, a channel of life rather than a rigid little box that is limited. That's the first step. And then now I'm also a source of everything.
hmm, hmm,
And now
yeah,
infinite wisdom can come through me. There's no limit to the power, the creativity, the love. And now you've got the Tao, you've got the yin and the yang of things, you've got the master circuit. You're
mhm,
nothing and you're everything combined.
mm,
And now you can become an instrument of creation. And
mhm,
that's what all the great teachers were teaching. And
mhm,
again, if we don't understand that impulse, because we haven't examined ourselves, we don't know ourselves, then we either try to become a master of the universe and be a god, or we humble ourselves falsely and we become much, much less than we could have, and we make other people our
mm,
gods.
yeah.
Does that make
And I
sense?
think yes, absolutely, and I think that that's the impact, if you're working in a company and in a corporation and you're working with leadership, That's the influence that they really need to understand when they're trying to think that power is what is most effective and trying to control. Because I think great leaders know that the more control they give up, the more control they have. And this, because we're getting pretty um, metacognical, if you will. Throw that out at you. And then,
Sort of
but
a
the applic
metaphysical meets cognitive,
you got it. Um,
metacognital.
Metacognital.
Ooh, it's a
So
new discipline we're
well,
starting right
we have
now.
that opportunity, don't we? That's where I came up with performance-driven neurology. I had to create the specialty that I feel that I'm in only because I couldn't find anything else that didn't limit something somehow. And I think
Right,
that's the greatest challenge all of us have in life is to be a a vessel of opportunity as opposed to scarcity.
absolutely.
And right? And, I always ask leaders, "Have any of you ever been defensive?" And everybody always laughs. And I says, Remember, the next time you're defensive, you're defending your right to stay the same.
Yeah,
And don't think that's a great model for growth and development for your people.
right.
But that again is what you're talking
Or
about.
righteous. As soon as I'm certain about anything, that's now my cue to go, I don't know anything right now. I remember telling my wife, as much as when, my second wife for the last 10 years, um, as right as I thought I was, I'm that wrong.
Yeah.
And but not like false humility, but like, it's realizing we're all the blind men holding the elephant on some level, because no
You
matter
bet.
what, what's knowable is infinitely more. And
Yeah.
that is again that same balance that it's like and any real wise person that knows a lot actually is a person who knows just how much they don't
They
know.
don't know. Yeah.
And a great leader is not it's not like that's why, Jesus talked about a servant leadership and, you see leaders like Gandhi or Dr. King or Mandela or, other great leaders. They're not wimps. They're not soft. It's
Yeah.
like, don't mistake my kindness for weakness kind of thing.
Yeah.
They're not doormats. They're welcome mats. And as I said, they don't have a wishbone. They have a backbone. But um, but there's a strength, like, Gandhi was no pushover.
Yeah.
He might
Yeah.
have been a little skinny vegetarian, but you do
Yeah.
not he was not one to be trifled with, and neither was Dr. King or Mandela or Jesus or any of these individuals or Mother Teresa.
Yeah.
And, she was a bad mamma jamma. And so there's a strength to a leader, but it's a strength of one that has really examined themselves and their motives and truly is in alignment or in integrity with themselves to some great degree. And so they don't need to exert, they don't have to prove anything.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
not triggered and in what I call shadow dancing with other people. They're not compensating. They've looked at all of their own stuff and loved the enemy in their own household and found wisdom in it and integrate.
That's really powerful what you just said and how you said it. Most people think about love thy neighbor like thyself. And one of the challenges is that's the problem.
Yeah, I don't want you loving me the way you love yourself often.
Yeah, yeah,
Exactly.
exactly. We can be our own worst critic. But the other thing
Exactly.
that I just picked up from what you're saying too, and I want my listeners and our listeners to hear this and to examine it, is the love, is what would you say about the enemy?
Well, yeah, love the enemy,
Love the
and
enemy.
the enemy is within your own household.
Yes, and that to me means that's the one trying to tear me down. That's the
Right.
narrative of I'm less than. And
Yes.
instead of fighting it, which
Yes.
you'll do for the rest of your life and always
Yes.
be having a cortisol drip going on
Yes.
and be in no danger of longevity.
And you'll also project it onto the screen of your experience. Everything that pushes or pulls you is a
Yeah,
projection of your own unreconciled conflict.
isn't that the truth? I mean, it's most people are aware that their brain is a recorder, but very few are aware that it's a projector.
Right.
And, what you dislike most in others is what you dislike most in self. It's that real
100%.
ability to be transparent, not in a simplistic fashion, but in one that's applicable to being able to grow and develop and
100%.
evolve, if you will.
You wanna become trigger happy. So
Yeah,
when somebody triggers you, you're like, "Hot damn, I'm about to grow," you know?
right. Yeah.
And that really changes it. What bothers you can better you
You
if
meant
you understand the world is a mirror, AI is a mirror, the play, as Shakespeare said, is a mirror, all the world is the stage, and
yes.
if you understand that, it gets exciting, and there's a flip, that's the dark shadow, but the light shadow is also all the people, not just that you hate and that bother you, but all the people you admire and think are so amazing and you would love to have known them or have dinner with them or sex with them or whatever. They're like, "Oh my God, Jesus or Buddha or Oprah or whoever." That's also a projection of
Hmm.
your greatness.
Mhm,
And
mhm.
so and because of your conditioning or whatever, you also ended up you also ended up believing the reason somebody bothers you, he's such a selfish jerk, is because you've rejected the selfish part of you because of
Mm,
your upbringing, and so it gets projected. And but likewise, "Oh my god, she's so amazing," or "He's so amazing. If only I could talk like that or love like that or live like that." That's also because you rejected a part of you called beautiful, talented, brilliant, successful. And so, likewise, when you embrace that and
mm,
you own that, I remember once one of the first times I did this, I was a musician and stuff. And I remember watching this guy in church playing and singing, and he was hitting these notes. And it was so amazing. And I was just like, I was so envious and also so admiring, all of which is a indication, a clue of a shadow, of a light shadow. And I was like, and I caught myself and I was so grateful. Thank you for showing me who I am.
mm,
And I began to just own that part of myself and, sing and play piano and do it the normal way that I normally did. And within a month, I was playing and singing like that guy
hmm, hmm,
and
hmm.
without any extra strenuous attempt, but I had reclaimed a little fragment of my
Wow.
projection. And, in the same and also it's important to know that when you embrace the negative stuff, needy, greedy, selfish, mean, jerk, controlling, whatever, you don't become a needy, greedy, selfish jerk. You discover that those qualities are necessary, valuable, valid parts of you. Like, it creates a circuit.
Hmm,
You can't just have selfless without selfish.
hmm.
Try breathing out all day and never breathing in and see how that works.
Yeah,
You're gonna
that
be
yin
dead
yang.
in a
Yeah.
few minutes. So every other polarity, needy, greedy versus generous and giving, it creates a circuit. Where there's a circuit, there's circulation. Where there's circulation, there's more life, there's more abundance, there's more growth. And so all of the challenges we face, or many of them, are broken circuits. And the world is showing us where the circuitry is broken by the way we're reacting, as are our challenges. So when I embraced my stupid self, because I was fighting so long to not be stupid, to not have the wrong answer. And when I started embracing my stupid self instead of defending against it or protecting against it, I didn't become stupid. I became a student.
Hmm,
I became open at the top. I became available to insight and wisdom beyond my years of education. I
mhm.
became a channel of wisdom that I didn't even have to do all the studying for because now I was no longer afraid of getting it wrong. So it's
Or
important to
comparing
understand
yourself.
or comparing myself, right?
Yeah.
And so it's important to know that the opportunity, again, with any challenge or crisis, the AI crisis, whatever's triggering you now, the people that bother you or that you hate or that whatever, this whole experience, things that make you feel like a fraud, like an imposter, to pull all that together. If you understand all of life is conspiring for you to know who you really are, what you're really made of and made for, and have the courage and the strength and the resilience to live it, that's the only game going on.
Hmm.
All of life only serves one purpose: to grow the patterns of life into full flourishing.
Yeah.
That's it. There's
Yeah.
nothing else going on. Then you start to then reinterpret everything. Ooh,
Yeah.
how is this an opportunity for me to know myself and be more flourishing and be a greater express? Oh, how is this one? How? And suddenly it's simple. It's not always easy. It's very hard, believe it sometimes. But even the worst tragedies, which I've gone through, the loss of a child,
Yeah.
the fortune stolen from me, etc., they were an opportunity for me to become more me.
Hmm. Mhm.
So that's what's
Beautiful.
going on in the simplest terms. And you were evolutionarily adapted for it neurologically. When you understand and you align with that fact, you start to use the dopaminergic systems in the right way. You start to activate, grow new neural pathways. You are designed to become more and more of who you are.
Yeah.
Evolution has adapted you that way, to have a target, to become in alignment with that. And it's just important to understand everything, whether you're studying it from an evolutionary standpoint, a neurological standpoint, a spiritual slash religious standpoint, a mental psychological standpoint. You start to see they're all just different facets of the same jewel of how we're meant to evolve and grow.
Mm. Mhm.
And that's a
Well,
mouthful. That's a
you
Derek salad there, but hey.
hey, you've certainly articulated manifestation
Yes,
and responsibility, what it really means to recognize that this world you love or hate, you created, um, and you used little help from society and your friends.
yes,
But I believe it all comes in alignment with the decision of the sense of purpose, as you had alluded to. Um, Not so much why haven't I gotten this or why did I get that, but what's that got to do with why I'm here?
yes,
And you are in alignment with me when I don't think life is a lesson. I think life is a canvas and it's a creative opportunity for us as such a creative creature to be able to manifest miraculous things. Einstein, and I want to kind of wrap it up with this, but Einstein really made a powerful, powerful statement when he said, and you'll remember this: there's only one question you have to answer, and that is, everything's a miracle. There are no miracles.
yes,
But what was key about it, and this is where we've been brought up kind of backwards, the key was you've got to answer the question first, then you'll find the evidence,
yes.
right? Don't try to
It's
find
like
the
you have to
evidence
have a
first.
hypothesis first, then you
Yeah,
will start organizing the infinite potential facts and perspectives into a way, because that's the way the cognition works. You
yep,
find what you look for and also where you're looking from.
yeah,
And so where you're looking from, what are you looking through, and what are you looking for? When you form a hypothesis, the reticular activating system, everything
amen,
starts
amen, yep.
finding evidence of it.
The
And if you're
universe
go
the
ahead.
universe is literally conspiring to do us good.
Exactly.
And that has got to be something that we embrace
Yeah.
wholeheartedly, or we experience the outcomes of looking at it differently. And that's
Well,
our choice, isn't it?
that's our choice. Well, Jesus said, "It is done unto you as you believe."
Mhm.
And so the bottom line is we're not experiencing reality. We're experiencing our belief about reality,
Yes.
the
Yes.
story we tell about reality.
Yeah.
And even quantum physics shows this with the observer effect. We
Yeah.
collapse a superposition that could be anything into a particle or a wave of something based on where
Yeah.
our attention is and what we're measuring.
The observer is the
Yeah.
contaminate. Yeah. You know,
But it's also the creator.
and the creator, right? And that's just fascinating. I mean, we
Yeah.
could go on and on and on.
There's a lot there. Yeah.
There is. One thing that I wanted to have you take a moment and talk about is we are in such a get ahead kind of society, especially here in America, and there's a lot of people that are listening to this that are trying to accomplish something that's they seems to be a bit out of reach, or somebody else got it. And based on what we've talked about, hopefully there's been some illumination as to why that's going on. But if not, what would you offer someone who's getting a little frustrated with feeling so close? And I've read about how many hits you took before the book before the book took off, and then it took off
Yes.
in a exponential
I have more
process.
rejection before breakfast than most people have in a lifetime, so
Yeah, and yet you stayed in it.
yeah,
Years ago, back in the '60s, the cover of Time magazine had proven that we are born optimistic. And it talked about, and basic premise was anybody that finds out they're gonna die and still wants to get up in the morning and go after it has gotta be an optimist.
yes,
And here you are here we have people out there who feel kinda stuck.
yeah.
And in the short time that we have left, what would you kinda have them think a little bit about to rather than work harder or smarter at what isn't working, think a little differently to accomplish more?
Yeah, I would say get my books.
Get your book. Okay,
I
tell
mean,
them
yeah, the
about that.
honest truth is this is
No,
literally what I
tell them
spend my
about it.
every day helping people do
Yeah.
is first of all, understand that no matter what's happened to you, no matter what's happening, there is something in you that the world didn't place, that the world cannot take away, that the world has never damaged or diminished. You have a reason and a right to exist and a power and a pattern of real purpose with the full mechanics of its fulfillment.
Hmm,
You came with it. It was planted in you before you were planted in your mother's womb. And the thing you have to start doing is instead of focusing on which we've been trained to do from a survival standpoint and even in the self-help and psychological overly therapized world, we are focused on the problem and the obstacle and whose fault is it or what's wrong with me that I need to fix. And that's like you've retrofitted your car to now have a giant rear view mirror and a tiny windshield. And you wonder why you can't move forward. And so you have to stop looking at yourself in that way. You have to stop looking at the problem and you have to start asking, what do I really want? If I was living the life that I really, really want, what would that life look like? So you can start to identify. Again, we are target seeking creatures. We have
mhm.
whites in our eyes so we can see where everybody else is
What do they
aiming
call
at.
it? Teleological in nature?
Theological, yeah. And even the word sin is an archery term that means to miss the mark, miss the target, or to have no target, or to have too many targets. So we have to define the target, and then we have to understand that if we keep focusing on the problem, it's like a race car driver. You're trained to focus on the track, even when you're spinning out towards the wall. Because what everything in your body wants to do is look at the wall, because you believe if I just keep looking at the wall, I'll be able to somehow not hit it. But the hands follow the eyes and you're going to hit it. So you get trained to look away from the wall, even grabbing you by the helmet and turning your attention. Look at where you want to go.
Hmm,
But the wall, look at where you want to go. And then it catches, your hands turn, and comes out of the spin out, and you get back on track. Not always, but if you
yeah,
look at the wall, you're going to hit it every time.
yeah, yeah.
So we have to train ourselves. I know it's hard, believe me. I've run into a lot of walls, but you have to give yourself the kindness, the compassion, the love, and the respect to take time to get clear on what do you really want? What really matters most? Don't overcomplicate it. Define the target. Make a basic plan to get there because a vision without a plan is a fantasy. Put it on your calendar because a plan that's not on your calendar is wishful thinking. Everybody else's agendas are going to take over. And then the key to understand is if you just keep acting in the direction of that thing, or I'll even say one other thing. Imagine who you would be if you already achieved it. And then, like, how would you think? What would you be focusing on? What would your conversations be? What kind of actions would you take? Pull that future self into the present and just start today and for the next 7 days, thinking a little bit more like, focusing a little more on, acting a little more from that future person who's really present in you trying to come out.
Hmm.
And you'll start to build the character and the habits of the person you need to be in order to live the life you really are meant to have. And the key thing to understand here is your conditions do not determine your destiny. Your character does.
Hmm.
But your character is 100% in your control, meaning the habits you build. And the habits you build are based on what you are committed to consistently. And that is based on what you value most and what you focus on as your vision. So you have the power to do all of that. And if you're struggling, I understand it. And the key is no matter what you're feeling, no matter what you're facing, make the commitment again to yourself. Choose yourself again. Choose it every day. And just take those simple steps. Listen to this thing 3 times if you have to. Take those simple steps. I'm telling you what I know for sure. You can and will grow yourself out of and above the challenge you're facing, and not only get back to baseline, but become more of who you really are on the other side.
Wow. Wow. That sounds like Thoreau. He who confidently advances in the direction of his dreams meets with his success unexpected in common hours.
Exactly.
Right? I mean, you've been a blessing. I've really got to tell you what a treat this
Oh,
has
thank you, buddy.
certainly been for me.
Thank you, brother.
And more importantly, what our guests have had the opportunity to experience. Um, this is something that should go viral. What you've shared with us, how you haven't held back at all, and as you know, unless people start acting upon this, it's just knowledge. And in a
Yeah,
few moments or days, they'll be back to their default mechanism,
I
which is
understand.
where the rear view mirror is 10 times the size. One of the
Exactly.
chapters in my book is how successful can you be driving into the future, looking through the rear view mirror.
Oh,
So
see,
I
there you
love the
go.
fact that
We
you
we
brought
are brothers from another mother right there.
yes, exactly. So,
And it's true, knowledge is not power. Faith without works is dead. If you just have information and even inspiration without circulation and integration, you end up with constipation. So you got to move, you got to metabolize that knowledge. You got to act upon the
uh
good that you know.
Oh,
So,
your authenticity and genuineness is just, wonderful,
oh,
and
thank you, brother.
thank you.
In
Thank
other
you
words, I'm a freak. And that was the typo. In the Bible, it was not the meek shall inherit the earth. It was the freak. So let your freak flags fly, people.
That's right, to freakdom.
Yes.
Um,
Freak out and freak in.
there you go, there you go. Well, I wanna thank all of you. I know that thousands of choices you had, and you chose us. And recognize too that you chose us, choose yourself. And give yourself the opportunity to recognize wherever you happen to find yourself in life is exactly where you need to be. And now it's just a matter of choice. And as we've heard from Derek, as long as your choice is in alignment with the vision that you've set and you're coming from your sense of purpose, it doesn't have to be hard. It just takes commitment and recognizing that the worst thing that's going to happen is you're going to have more fun today than you did yesterday.
Yes.
So, all the best to all of you. Derek, once again, it's been a pleasure.
Thank you. Likewise.
And I look forward to having you join us the next time. Take care.